Okay, so today we're going to be learning about multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. To multiply fractions, the product of the two or more fractions is equal to the product of the numerator over the product of the denominator. So remember that the word product means the answer to a multiplication problem. So it tells you that if you multiply your two numerators to find the product and your two denominators to find the product, then you will find your answer to the problem. So you do not need to have a common denominator for these. Let's look at this with numbers. So here it says 1/5 times 3/8. So up here it tells me to multiply my numerators. So 1 times 3 equals 3. And then multiply my denominators. 5 times 8 equals 40. So I should get 3 over 40. And then using algebra, we would have A times C, so AC or A times C, over B times D. BD, and you can't simplify that at all. Let's go ahead and try a few more. Find the product of 1/4 times 7/9. So I'm going to multiply 1 times 7 to get 7, and then 4 times 9 will give me 36. So 7 over 36. And this one, 3 times 3 equals 9, and 5 times 8 equals 40, and I can't simplify either of those answers. Now we're going to talk about how you can simplify before you even multiply. So you can divide out common factors before multiplying the numerators and the denominators. If you divide out all common factors, answer will be in simplest form. So in words, it doesn't necessarily make sense, but let's look at an example. So here you have 7 times 6 over 16 times 7. So I can look across, since this is on top and this is on bottom, and see what can I simplify out. So if I divide out a 2 from both 6 and 16, that would leave me with a 3 up here, and then an 8 down here. And then for these two, I could take out a 7, divide by 7, which would give me 1 and 1. Now when I multiply, I get 3 over 8. Now let's look at why you can do that. So if I were to multiply originally 7 times 6, I'd have 7 times 6 over 16 times 7. So when I multiply these two numbers, you can see that I am going to eventually be dividing them out by the same thing. So here, I could take out a 2 from my numerator and a 2 from my denominator. I could take out a 7 from my numerator and a 7 from my denominator. If I just multiplied these straight across, I would get the same answer in the end. Okay, so when I multiply 7 times 6, I would get 42. And then 16 times 7 would give me 112. Now I'm left to simplify this big number. So I could divide by 2 and divide by 2. On the top, for my numerator, that would give me 21, and my denominator would give me 56. Now, I would divide by 7 to give me my simplest form, 3/8. So you can see how either way I do it, I get the same answer. But some people feel that simplifying beforehand is a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and try another one. And let's just look at the one on the left. So I'm going to look across and see, is there anything I can take out of 4 and 22? So I know if I divide 4 by 2, this could be rewritten as 2 times 2. And down here, this could be written as 2 times 11. So if I factor out my 2, I'm going to be left with just 2 on the top and 11 on the bottom, or my numerator and my denominator. And then here, 9 can be written as 3 times 3, and 15 can be written as 3 times 5. So I could factor out my 3, and then be left with a 5 for my numerator and a 3 for my denominator. Now when I multiply across, I get 2 times 5 equals 10 over 3 times 11 equals 33. And that answer is in simplest form. Go ahead and pause the video and try number 4 on your own. Okay, so if I look at 3 and 13, there's no common factors, but for 5 and 10, they both have a factor of 5. So if I divide 5 by 5, I'd be left with 1, and then 10 by 5, I'd be left with 2. Now I can multiply across. 3 times 2 equals 6, and 1 times 13 equals 13. And that is in simplest form already. Okay, we have one more concept to go over today, I believe, and it's multiplying whole numbers and fractions. So any number divided by 1 is equal to itself. Any whole number can be written as a fraction over 1. So we went over this already when we were talking about adding fractions with whole numbers. So to multiply 2/3 times 18, I'm going to make 18 into a fraction. Remember, it's 18 over 1. A lot of people make the mistake of putting 18 over 18, which would be equal to the whole 1, not the 18 whole number. So now I can multiply across. So two ways you could do it. You could multiply just straight across and do 2 times 18 equals 36. And then 3 times 1 equals 3. And then simplify out. 36 divided by 3 equals 12. Or you could have simplified in the beginning. So if I simplify in the beginning, I will, from here, 3 and 18, I can take out a 3. 3 divided by 3 equals 1. 18 divided by 3 equals 6. Now 2 times 6 equals 12. And 1 times 1 equals 1. So I'm left with the whole number 12. Go ahead and pause the video and try the second one on your own. When you're ready, go ahead and push play. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is write my whole number as a fraction. So 28 over 1. And you can multiply straight across or simplify beforehand. For this one, I'm going to simplify beforehand. Both of these have a factor of 2. So if I divide 6 by 2, I'm left with 3. And 28 by 2, I'm left with 14. Now I multiply across, and that gives me 14/3, which I could write as a mixed number. And 3 goes into 14 a total of 4 times. And I have 2 left over. So 14 and 2, or 4 and 2/3, sorry, not 14 2/3, would be my answer, or 14 over 3. And that is it for lesson 2.4.1.